Well, welcome once again to another session on mercy. And I hope not only read about it, talk about it, but hopefully in our life we are more merciful to others. Or at least seeing the world through the eyes of mercy, now changing our frame of thinking, really making that sort of the first way we approach people, with the eyes of tenderness and the eyes of mercy. Well, I'm here in my house, relaxing here at my two dogs love to keep me company. That's really why I got dogs, so they can sit on my lap. But anyway, I'd like to share a little story with you. It was a New York City policeman. He was working on a case and doing investigative work. And so we began making phone calls. And as he was dialing a number, he thought, oops, I think I hit the wrong number. But you know how that is. You're not quite certain, so you let the call go through. Sure enough, when he called, the fellow answered with a deep, husky voice and simply sort of very bluntly said, "You got the wrong number," and then hung up on him. He sort of sat there stunned for a moment and thinking, that's odd. How the heck did he know I had the wrong number? So, again he dialed. He dialed the same number. Again it was answered. And again with that sort of grunt reply, "I said you got the wrong number," and then he hung up. And he was mystified by that, thinking, well, how the heck could that be? How did he know I had the wrong number? I didn't even get a chance to say a word. Well, you know, cops are sort of taught to be curious and to stick to it, and so he called back again. And again, the fellow answered and said, "It's you again. What do you want?" He said, I'm just curious. How did you know I had the wrong number? He said, "You're so smart. Figure it out." And he hung up. And so the police officer sat there for a moment and he thought to himself, how the heck did he know I had the wrong number? And then he figured it out. Again, he calls the same number. Again, the fellow answers, "Well, did you figure it out?" He said, "Yeah. You knew I had the wrong number because nobody ever calls you." He said, "That's right. You're right. Nobody ever calls me." Again, he hung up. This police officer was one thing, if not stubborn. He was considerate, and he decided that he would call once again. So again, he dials the same number. He calls his new acquaintance. And he said, "Well, now what do you want?" He said, "Well, I just thought I'd call and say hello. Since nobody ever calls you, I'd like to be one who calls you and like to take time to talk with you." And so they did. They had a little conversation. I don't know about you, but when I think of that, when I read that story, even telling the story, it sort of always strikes me. It's just that one phrase, "Nobody ever calls me." What a lonely life, isn't it? What a lonely life. And so often we think of poverty, people who perhaps are, low on money, food or clothing, or even a place to stay, as terrible as that is. But sometimes the worst loneliness, the worst pain is loneliness. Having no one who cares about you. And Mother Teresa said that. She said the worst, enemies, she dealt, with a life with those in poverty, dire poverty, of course, but she said the great sickness, the great disease is really loneliness. And loneliness not only hurts us emotionally, but it kills us even physically. And so in this year of mercy, I'm asking myself, and I'm asking you as well, to seek out those who perhaps have no one, those who are lonely. Have you gone to a nursing home? I have, and part of my work, and often I'm visiting a particular patient or maybe a particular mission, say Mass, but just seeing those poor people there who are often just left in bed by themselves. Sometimes you hear them yelling out, screaming, or just simply sleeping, and no one ever comes to visit them. So if you really want to be eyes of mercy, visiting those who are lonely. Those are lonely. In fact, sometimes I challenge our school students. We get so caught up with our friends and we enjoy our little circle of friends, and we're forgetful of those who have no friends, who are by themselves. And I challenge them to reach out to them, include them in your circle. And so it is with us too, even as adults. Do you reach out? In Sunday Mass, we try to greet one another, share a little question, whatever that may be, and just to touch one another. But are you sensitive to those who come by themselves to Mass? Maybe, even notice that. Do you reach out to them? To get to know their name, to be a friend, to be a smiling face. It's so important. It is so important. Years ago, my parish church was way back. I wasn't that so long ago. I was in my 30s, and we had this one woman, Caroline. I think she lived at the church. That was her home. She came to early morning Mass, was there before Mass, hours before Mass, and then after Mass she stayed there. She had a little prayer book. She would say her prayers. She just loved being in the community of the church. In fact, I think she was in every wedding picture because she was always there on Saturdays. Not that she knew the couple getting married, but she liked just being in church. Oh, she prayed faithfully every single day. And then she had to go to the doctor, get the physical, or get an eye examined, or I don't know, the driver's bureau, whatever it was, and then she didn't pass the test. And so because she didn't pass the driver's test, they took her license away. And for her, that was the end of her world. And so this woman, who went to church every single day, every single Mass, she went home and she hung herself because she could not take not being in the community of the church. That's what loneliness can do to people sometimes. So I'm asking you now, really, to push yourself, to challenge yourself, to have eyes of mercy, seeking out the lonely. We feed the hungry here on Saturday, on weekends, Saturday and Sundays, and now lunch. And it's a noble thing to feed those who are hungry with food, but I try to be mindful and help those who are also mindful. It's not just only giving food that we have to give, but we have to give them part of ourselves. To know their names, to greet them, even if we don't know names, so many, and they come and go and they change, so that's difficult sometimes, but to talk to them, they're people, to accept them. I know some people get annoyed and they can be a little bit at times, maybe taken aback by their appearance, but they're people. And sometimes the worst thing about being homeless is that people want to avoid you. And that has to have an effect on you psychologically. So really the first gift you can give them is just seeing that you're one of us. That we accept you, to deal with that pain of loneliness and the eyes of mercy. When we first started the health clinic, we used to be down there in New York Avenue. It was close by, so often when I walked my dogs, I would stop in and just go in the lobby there, in the waiting room, as the patients sat around waiting to see the doctors and nurses. And I was supposed to be there to pray for them, but I really didn't pray all that often with many patients. Sometimes I did, some would have requests, but sometimes we just sort of chit-chat. And this one fellow, his name's Michael, and we were talking, and we sort of shared a common interest in sports, so we began talking. And unlike many of them, he was even Catholic, so it was an even better, little deeper connection. And as we were talking, I found out that he was homeless, and he asked if I could help him, and the only thing I could offer him was a tent. He was most grateful for that tent. Anyway, see him around time to time, and then he told me this, and he said, Father Tom, you saved my life. I thought he was exaggerating, you know that, but he has since moved away. He texts me, he thanks me, he comes back to town now and then, he makes sure he comes visits me, and he always reminds me, you know something, you saved my life. Now, to tell you the truth, I didn't do anything. I have done much more effort for other people, other individuals who are not getting those same results. All I did was I gave him a tent, but I don't think it was even the tent so much. It was that I spoke with him, that I shared with him, and that we struck up sort of like a friendship that, so not as someone below me, but as an equal. And that's some reason, only God can explain. He said, I saved his life. And that's what happens sometimes. We don't realize sometimes the littlest things you can do, a greeting, a smile, a wave, can save someone's life, to make a difference in their life. because a lot of people are lonely. That's one of the big things in this world. We're hurting and we're lonely. So in this year of mercy, if you can consider that, to look for those who may not have, maybe, who have no family with them, who seem to be by themselves, just a pleasant greeting, a pleasant smile, and, being pleasant. Even if they don't respond the way we want them to respond. Don't let them affect you. Don't let them change you. You be cheerful. You be happy. You be outgoing. Just greet them and smile to them. It'd be a blessing. And I think that's a great way of being merciful. So let's maybe together we'll focus on that this week and really looking out for people who look lonely, who have no one, that I may be their friend, that I, with my heart, can feel their loneliness, their pain, and share part of it with them. So I hope now you can share with your group now, and look forward to talking to you again next week. So God bless you, and let's look at the world with the eyes of mercy, the eyes of compassion.